Where have you been?
I thought you were dead. I'm so sorry, my babies.
The day Scarlet was declared dead, the whole country mourned a billionaire, a philanthropist, and a devoted single mother. But while cameras captured tears at her memorial, something far more disturbing was happening behind the gates of her mansion. The sister she had spent years supporting took over her home, her wealth, and then turned her two innocent children out onto the streets. What no one knew was that Scarlet wasn't dead at all. Hidden from the world, she was watching every heartbreaking moment, waiting to discover one truth that would change her family forever: who would protect her children when she no longer. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. If stories about family, sacrifice, and unexpected justice inspire you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more emotional stories. Scarlet Thompson was 42 years old. She was one of the most recognizable entrepreneurs in the country. Her luxury skincare brand had grown from a small home business into an international company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Magazines called her a business genius. Television stations invited her to speak about leadership. Charities honored her for giving millions back to struggling families. To the outside world, Scarlet appeared to have everything. A beautiful mansion. Luxury cars. Successful companies. Financial freedom. Two wonderful children. Yet behind those polished headlines was a woman carrying the weight of an entire family on her shoulders. Scarlet had two children. 15-year-old Ethan. 10-year-old Lily. They were polite, humble, and grateful because their mother had always reminded them that wealth was temporary, but character lasted forever. Scarlet often told them, "The richest people aren't the ones with the biggest houses. They're the ones people still love after the money disappears." The children believed every word. Unfortunately, not everyone in the family shared those values. Scarlet was the second of three siblings. Her older sister, Rebecca, had spent most of her adult life depending on Scarlet. Rebecca rarely kept a job for long. Every business Scarlet opened for her eventually failed because Rebecca preferred spending money over managing it. Whenever Rebecca found herself in trouble, she called Scarlet. Mortgage overdue. Scarlet paid it. Children's tuition. Scarlet covered it. Medical emergencies. Scarlet transferred the money immediately. Birthday parties. Vacations. Luxury handbags. Designer clothes. Even expensive jewelry. Scarlet quietly paid for them all. People often asked why she never stopped helping. Scarlet would simply smile. "They're my family." She never kept records. She never reminded anyone what she had done. She believed generosity wasn't something you counted. It was something you lived. Rebecca slowly became comfortable with that arrangement. Instead of appreciating Scarlet's kindness, she began expecting it. Whenever Scarlet delayed sending money because of business meetings, Rebecca complained. If she can buy another mansion, she can certainly help her own sister. Over time, gratitude disappeared. Entitlement replaced it. Then there was the youngest sibling, Michael Thompson. At 36, Michael lived without direction. He drifted from one apartment to another. He changed girlfriends almost every month. Most of his days disappeared in expensive nightclubs, gambling tables, and parties. He experimented with illegal drugs. Ignored phone calls. Missed family gatherings. Scarlet paid for several rehabilitation programs. Michael attended each one. Then left after only a few weeks. People around town described him as wasted potential. Scarlet never stopped believing he could still change. Whenever someone criticized him, she defended him. People change when life gives them a reason. She hoped that day would come. No one imagined how soon it would. Despite everything, Scarlet never complained. She believed family wasn't about convenience. It was about commitment. But commitment without honesty often becomes sacrifice without limits. One evening, Scarlet attended a charity gala where she met her longtime friend and trusted colleague, Daniel Brooks. Daniel had worked beside Scarlet for almost 15 years. Unlike many employees who admired only her success, Daniel respected her heart. As the evening ended, he noticed Scarlet staring silently through the ballroom window. You seem distracted, he said. Scarlet sighed. I've built companies. I've helped thousands of strangers. But there's one question I can't answer. Daniel waited. If something happened to me tomorrow, who would truly love my children? The question lingered between them. Daniel tried reassuring her. Your family would. Scarlet smiled sadly. I hope you're right. Several weeks later, Scarlet witnessed something that changed everything. She arrived unexpectedly at Rebecca's house carrying groceries and gifts for her nieces. As she approached the front door, she heard laughter inside. Rebecca didn't know Scarlet had arrived. I honestly don't know what we'd do without Scarlet, Rebecca joked to her friends. Everyone laughed. One woman asked, do you ever worry she'll stop helping? Rebecca burst into laughter. She won't. She can't. She needs us more than we need her. Helping people makes her feel important. Another added. So basically she's your personal bank. Rebecca raised her glass. Exactly. The room exploded with laughter. Scarlet stood frozen outside. She wasn't hurt because of the money. She was hurt because she finally understood something. The sacrifices. The sleepless nights. The constant giving. They had never created gratitude. They had only created dependence. Scarlet quietly left without knocking. She cried the entire drive home. Not because she regretted helping, but because she realized her children might someday depend on people who had never truly learned to care. That night, Scarlet couldn't sleep. She watched Ethan and Lily laughing while finishing homework together. Then she whispered to herself, if I disappeared tomorrow, would they be safe? Days later, Scarlet invited Daniel to her office. She closed the door. I've made a decision. Daniel immediately noticed the seriousness in her voice. I'm going to disappear. He stared at her. What do you mean? I'm going to let everyone believe I've died. Daniel looked stunned. Scarlet explained everything. No one would know except him, her attorney, and one trusted doctor. The funeral would be symbolic. Private. Her businesses would temporarily pause under legal supervision. Rebecca would believe Scarlet had left everything to the family until the legal process finished. Meanwhile, Scarlet would secretly watch. Not for revenge. Not to punish anyone. Only to answer one heartbreaking question. Who would truly become parents to Ethan and Lily? Daniel hesitated. This is dangerous. I know. What if they never forgive you? Scarlet looked at a framed picture of her children. If this protects them for the rest of their lives, it's worth losing their forgiveness. The plan began weeks later. News spread that Scarlet had collapsed during a charity trip overseas after suffering from a rare medical complication. Despite every effort, she had passed away. The headlines shocked the country. Business leaders mourned. Celebrities shared tributes. Thousands attended the memorial service. Television stations replayed Scarlet's speeches about kindness and generosity. Flowers surrounded her portrait. Rebecca cried louder than anyone else. She embraced reporters. My sister was everything to us. Michael arrived late. Disheveled. Silent. He stood in the back without speaking. No one noticed the tears rolling down his face. Scarlet watched everything from a hidden location through a private live broadcast arranged by Daniel. She cried too. Not because people believed she was gone, but because she wondered what tomorrow would reveal. Would her children still be surrounded by love? Or had the real story only just begun? 3 days after the memorial, Rebecca arrived at Scarlet's mansion with several moving trucks. She smiled as workers carried expensive furniture, designer clothing, artwork, and luxury decorations into rooms she immediately claimed as her own. Standing in the grand entrance hall, Rebecca slowly looked around before whispering to herself. Finally. 3 days after Scarlet's memorial service, the atmosphere inside the mansion changed completely. The house that had once echoed with laughter, bedtime stories, and family movie nights now felt cold and unfamiliar. Rebecca wasted no time making it clear that she was in charge. She walked through every room with the confidence of someone who believed the mansion had always belonged to her. One by one, movers carried in her designer furniture, expensive decorations, and countless shopping bags filled with luxury clothes. Her children excitedly claimed the largest bedrooms, while Ethan and Lily were quietly told to move into the small guest rooms at the back of the house. Scarlet watched every moment through the hidden security cameras Daniel had secretly kept active. Each passing hour made her heart heavier. She had hoped Rebecca would become the loving guardian she had always promised to be. Instead, she was watching a stranger take over her children's home. Rebecca's personality changed almost overnight. The gentle sister people had seen during the funeral disappeared. In her place stood a woman obsessed with power, comfort, and appearances. She ordered Scarlet's expensive paintings removed because they reminded her of the former owner. She replaced family photographs with portraits of herself and her children. Even Scarlet's favorite flowers were thrown away because Rebecca claimed they looked old-fashioned. To visitors, Rebecca presented herself as the rightful lady of the mansion. Whenever neighbors expressed sympathy for Scarlet's children, Rebecca would smile politely. "They're adjusting," she would say. "Children are stronger than people think." Behind closed doors, the truth was completely different. Scarlet had employed several loyal housekeepers for years. Among them was Sarah Williams, a woman in her early 50s who had practically helped raise Ethan and Lily since they were toddlers. Sarah wasn't simply an employee. She was family. She knew Ethan's favorite breakfast. She remembered Lily's fear of thunderstorms. She attended every birthday, every school performance, every Christmas celebration. The children trusted her like a second mother. Rebecca noticed that immediately. She hated how comfortable the children felt around Sarah. One afternoon, Rebecca watched Sarah comforting Lily after another emotional day. The little girl buried her face in Sarah's shoulder. "I miss Mommy." Sarah gently stroked her hair. "I know, sweetheart. Your mommy loved you more than anything." Rebecca's expression hardened. She marched across the room. "That's enough." Sarah looked up calmly. "They're grieving." Rebecca folded her arms. "They need to move on." Sarah remained respectful. "They need kindness." Rebecca pointed toward the front door. "No. They need discipline. And you no longer work here." The room fell silent. Even Ethan looked shocked. Sarah tried to explain. "Mrs. Rebecca, Scarlet personally." Rebecca interrupted. "Scarlet is gone. I own this house now. You have 1 hour to leave." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Not for herself. For the children. Before leaving, she knelt in front of Ethan and Lily. She hugged them tightly. "If you ever need me, I'll always come." Neither child wanted to let go. Rebecca pulled them away. "Enough crying." Sarah slowly walked out carrying only 2 small bags. As the front door closed, it felt as though the last piece of warmth had left the mansion. Life became unbearable. Rebecca spent money faster than anyone imagined. Luxury shopping trips became almost daily routines. Designer clothes, jewelry, spa appointments, vacations, private parties. Everything Scarlet had worked decades to build became Rebecca's playground. Meanwhile, Ethan and Lily were treated like unwanted guests inside their own home. Breakfast was often skipped because Rebecca claimed groceries were expensive. Ironically, she spent thousands of dollars every week shopping for herself. If the children accidentally spoke during dinner, Rebecca scolded them. If they laughed too loudly, she complained. If they mentioned their mother, Rebecca immediately changed the subject. Scarlet watched everything through Daniel's secure recordings. Many nights she cried until sunrise. Daniel questioned whether the experiment had gone too far. Scarlet always answered the same way. "I need to know. If I stop now, I'll never know who truly loves them." Several weeks later, Rebecca made the cruelest decision of all. It happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. The children returned from school carrying their backpacks. Rebecca stood waiting near the entrance. Without greeting them, she pointed toward the gate. You two are leaving. Ethan stared in confusion. What? You heard me. This house isn't an orphanage. Lily immediately began crying. Aunt Rebecca. Please. We have nowhere else to go. Rebecca remained unmoved. That's not my problem. She grabbed their backpacks and threw them onto the driveway. Then she opened the gate. Get out. Ethan stood protectively in front of his little sister. We're Mom's children. Rebecca smiled coldly. Your mother is gone. And this is my house. She pushed the gate closed. The electronic lock clicked. The two children stood outside in complete silence. The rain slowly soaked their uniforms. Lily reached for her brother's hand. Where do we go? Ethan looked back one last time at the only home they had ever known. I don't know. The siblings began walking. No destination. No money. No adult. Only each other. That same afternoon, Michael unexpectedly decided to visit Scarlet's mansion. For weeks he had avoided everyone. Scarlet's death had affected him more deeply than anyone realized. He had stopped partying. Stopped drinking. Stopped answering invitations. For the first time in years, he was thinking clearly. As he entered the mansion, he immediately noticed something strange. The house looked different. Rebecca was sitting comfortably in Scarlet's favorite chair while servants served her lunch. Michael frowned. Where are Ethan and Lily? Rebecca froze for just a second. Then forced a smile. They're fine. Michael looked around. I don't hear them. They're outside. Michael narrowed his eyes. Outside where? Rebecca hesitated. They're visiting friends. Michael immediately sensed something was wrong. What friends? Rebecca couldn't answer. Her hands began trembling. Michael stood up. Rebecca. Where are Scarlet's children? She looked away. I told them to leave. The room fell silent. Michael blinked. What? They were becoming difficult. I couldn't handle them. So I asked them to go. Michael stared at his sister in disbelief. You threw two children onto the street. Rebecca folded her arms. They're not my responsibility. For several seconds, Michael couldn't speak. The carefree man who had wasted years of his life suddenly felt something break inside him. Scarlet had spent years protecting him, paying his bills, defending him, believing in him. And now, the only people she had left behind had been abandoned. Michael slammed his fist onto the dining table. Rebecca jumped. What is wrong with you? He looked directly into her eyes. You should be ashamed. Without saying another word, he ran toward his car. For the next 3 days, Michael searched everywhere. Parks, bus stations, shopping centers, shelters, schools, restaurants. He barely slept. Barely ate. Every little girl with dark hair reminded him of Lily. Every teenage boy wearing a backpack reminded him of Ethan. Each night, he returned home exhausted. And each morning, he started searching again. The people who once knew Michael as the careless, irresponsible younger brother couldn't believe what they were seeing. For the first time in his life, he wasn't running away from responsibility. He was running toward it. But after 3 long days, there was still no sign of Scarlet's children. Michael finally remembered the one person who had truly loved them. Sarah. He picked up his phone with trembling hands. As it rang, he silently prayed that she would answer. Michael stood outside his small apartment with his phone pressed tightly against his ear. Every ring felt like an eternity. Finally, the call connected. Hello. The familiar voice immediately brought him a sense of relief. Sarah, it's Michael. There was a brief silence. I know why you're calling. Michael's heart raced. You do? Sarah sighed gently. I've been praying someone in the family would finally ask about those children. Michael closed his eyes. Please tell me they're safe. They are. For the first time in days, Michael breathed normally. Sarah explained everything. The afternoon Rebecca forced Ethan and Lily out of the mansion. She had been driving nearby to secretly check on them, just as she had done every day since losing her job. She never stopped worrying about the children. When she saw them standing in the rain with their school bags, she immediately understood what had happened. Without asking questions, she brought them home. She prepared warm food, washed their uniforms, called her own children into the living room and said, "From today, Ethan and Lily are part of this family." Sarah's children welcomed them without hesitation. No one complained. No one asked how long they would stay. They simply made room around the dinner table. As Michael listened, tears rolled down his face. A woman who had no legal obligation to help had done more than those connected by blood. "Can I come and see them?" Michael asked. "They've been asking about you," Sarah replied softly. Less than an hour later, Michael arrived at Sarah's modest home. The house was simple. Nothing about it suggested wealth. But as soon as he stepped inside, he felt something Scarlet's mansion no longer had. Warmth. Laughter drifted from the kitchen. Children were doing homework together around a small table. Lily looked up first. "Uncle Michael." She ran into his arms. Moments later, Ethan hugged him too. Michael could no longer hold back his emotions. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry I wasn't there." Ethan shook his head. "You came." Sarah quietly stepped away, allowing them to have their moment. That evening, Michael sat alone on the porch after the children had gone to sleep. He replayed his entire life in his mind. The parties. The addictions. The wasted years. Scarlet had never given up on him. Yet when she needed someone to protect her children, he had almost failed her. At sunrise, Michael made the biggest decision of his life. He would never abandon Ethan and Lily again. Over the following weeks, Michael completely changed. He sold his luxury sports car. Then another. He sold expensive watches. Designer clothes. Everything that reminded him of the reckless man he used to be. Friends who had once partied with him mocked his decision. "You've lost your mind." Michael smiled. "No. I've finally found it." The money paid Ethan and Lily's school tuition. It covered uniforms, books, food, and medical care. When the savings began running low, Michael accepted his first steady job in years. The work was difficult. The hours were long. But every evening, he returned home carrying groceries instead of excuses. The children noticed the change. Lily once asked him, "Uncle Michael, why are you doing all this?" He smiled through tears. "Because your mother spent years believing I could become a better man. I don't want her to be wrong." Unknown to everyone, Scarlet watched everything through Daniel. Every sacrifice Michael made. Every bedtime story he read. Every parent-teacher meeting he attended. Every lunch he packed before school. Scarlet cried almost every night. Daniel quietly smiled. "You found your answer." Scarlet nodded. "I lost one sister. But I got my brother back." Nearly 3 months after Scarlet's memorial, Michael decided it was time to confront Rebecca. He drove to the mansion with Ethan and Lily waiting safely at home. Rebecca was relaxing beside the swimming pool, wearing expensive jewelry and designer clothing Scarlet had once purchased. Shopping bags covered the living room. Music echoed through the house. She barely looked up when Michael entered. "What do you want?" Michael stood calmly. "I came from my sister's home." Rebecca laughed. "Your sister is gone. This house belongs to me now." Michael shook his head. "No. It belongs to Ethan and Lily." Rebecca rolled her eyes. "If you're so concerned, you raise them." "I certainly won't." Michael stared at her in disbelief. "You really feel nothing?" Rebecca stood. "I've spent my whole life watching Scarlet enjoy everything. For once, it's my turn." Their voices grew louder. Neither noticed the black luxury SUV slowly approaching the front gate. The vehicle came to a stop. The engine turned off. Silence filled the driveway. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out wearing a simple white dress and dark sunglasses. She removed the glasses. Rebecca froze. The shopping bags slipped from her hands. Michael couldn't move. His breathing stopped. Standing before them, alive, was Scarlet. Rebecca stumbled backward. No. No. That's impossible. We buried you. Scarlet looked calmly at her sister. You buried an empty coffin. Rebecca's face turned pale. Michael's eyes filled with tears. Scarlet. She smiled softly. I'm home. Minutes later, everyone gathered inside the living room. Daniel entered with Scarlet's attorney carrying several legal documents. Rebecca still looked as though she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Scarlet spoke calmly. I was never sick. I never died. Rebecca whispered. Why? Scarlet looked directly into her eyes. Because I needed to know who would love my children when I couldn't. Silence filled the room. Then Daniel played recorded footage from the mansion's hidden security cameras. Rebecca watched herself insulting Ethan. Ignoring Lily's tears. Firing Sarah. Throwing backpacks onto the driveway. Ordering 2 frightened children out into the rain. Every moment appeared on the television screen. Rebecca slowly covered her face. Scarlet wasn't finished. She then played another recording. Michael searching parks. Michael sleeping in his car. Michael crying after speaking with Sarah. Michael selling his cars. Helping with homework. Cooking dinner. Walking the children to school. Rebecca couldn't look at him. Scarlet smiled through tears. My experiment didn't reveal who deserved my money. It revealed who deserved my trust. The attorney opened a folder. Miss Scarlet has already updated every legal document. Rebecca looked up hopefully. Scarlet gently shook her head. The mansion. The businesses. The investments. Everything remains in a protected family trust for Ethan and Lily. Rebecca's expression fell. As for you, the financial support ends today. Rebecca began crying. I'm your sister. Scarlet answered quietly. I was your sister when I paid your bills. I was your sister when I helped your children. I was your sister when you had nothing. You stopped acting like my sister long before I stopped helping. Rebecca had no response. Scarlet then turned toward Michael. Without saying a word, she hugged him. Both of them cried. I'm sorry, Michael whispered. I wasted so many years. Scarlet smiled. No. You became the man I always believed you could be. She looked toward Sarah. You protected my children when no one else did. Sarah smiled gently. I simply loved them. Scarlet walked over and embraced her. From this day forward, you will never work for me again. Sarah looked confused. Scarlet laughed softly. Because family doesn't work for family. I'd like you to become the director of the Scarlett Thompson Family Foundation. Sarah burst into tears. I don't know what to say. You've already said enough, Scarlet replied. You said it through your actions. Months later, life looked very different. Rebecca moved into a modest apartment and, for the first time in years, found a steady job. The adjustment wasn't easy, but it forced her to become responsible for her own choices. Michael remained a constant presence in Ethan and Lily's lives. He stayed away from the habits that had once controlled him and dedicated himself to being the dependable uncle they deserved. Sarah led the foundation with compassion, creating programs that supported single parents and children facing difficult circumstances. Scarlet returned to her businesses, but her priorities had changed. She spent more time with Ethan and Lily, knowing that success meant little without the people who truly cared for one another. She often reflected on the lesson that had changed her life. Money can attract people. Comfort can keep them close. But only love remains when everything else is gone. Because in the end, the people who deserve a place in your family are not always the ones who share your name. They're the ones who choose to stand beside you when there's nothing left to gain.